Israel Update with Gadi Taub and Mike Duran.
Hello, I'm Mike Duran, and welcome to Israel Update. Israel Update is normally with me and Gadi Taub, and as you know, Gadi Taub usually introduces us, but he is off at an undisclosed location for an indeterminate amount of time. But I am joined today by a special guest, Dr. Mordechai Kedar from Bar Ilan University in Israel. Moti, welcome to the show.
It's my pleasure, if not to mention the honor, Mike.
So let me start by just telling you who you are so that everybody else will know, and then you can tell me if I have it wrong. You spent about 25 years in military intelligence. You're now a professor at Bar Ilan University. You are an expert on Middle Eastern politics. You're fluent in Hebrew, English, and Arabic. You often appear on Arabic language television. I see you occasionally explaining what's going on in the war on Arab TV, fluent in Arabic, arguing with Arab speakers. You are an expert on Arab and Islamic politics, I would say. I feel like I know you, although I've never met you, because I've been following everything that you write and say for years. The thing that I particularly appreciate about you is that you are that rarest of things, an original thinker. You just figure out what you think, and then you say it without concern about what the conventional wisdom is or isn't. I frequently disagree with you, actually, but I always find it enormously engaging to think about what you say, because you're not just repeating what everyone else is saying. So for me, it's a real honor to have you here. Welcome.
Thank you so much for this introduction. Yet I would correct here and there. First of all, I didn't spend 25 years in the army. I served. And there's a big difference between spending time and serving. Second thing, I know in American English it doesn't make much of a difference.
But no, it does. No, it does. I stand corrected. It's good. It's good.
To me, as an Israeli, it sounds much better.
Yes.
Secondly, I am already on pension. I am retired from Bar Ilan. I'm still there in the Begin-Sadat Center, Begin-Sadat Center for Strategic Studies, but officially I'm on pension. And you know, pension in university is very good because the only problem with the universities is the students. Usually the universities are a good place. The only thing which is the problem is the students. So now I don't have to deal with students anymore.
See, I spent a few years teaching, and I had a very different view. I really liked the students. I hated the faculty. That's
okay.
If it was just researching, writing, and teaching, I would have been very happy. But I had to deal with my colleagues who drove me crazy.
Yep. Anyhow, when we. I'm sorry to tell you that I've never watched Gadi Taub on this stage, but I'm looking at things from the Middle East point of view, from the Arab side or the Islamic side. What I see from the outside is two, I would say, opposing things about Israel. One thing is I see a state which was petrified from fear until almost 2 years ago. Fear from Iran, fear from Hezbollah, fear from Hamas, fear from the militias in Syria, in Iraq, and the accumulation of this octopus was even much worse than fearing. Israel was, we all knew about the stockpile of 150,000 missiles which Hezbollah had. 150,000? It means they can, send a barrage of missiles, let's say 500 only per day, it can last for 300 days. Israel will be totally destroyed only by Hezbollah, let alone Hamas and the others. And we know about the ground forces of Hezbollah, which they prepare in order to invade Israel and to destroy the whole north. We know about Gaza, what they have there. No, maybe not everything, but we had a good idea about what Hamas are preparing there. Yet we thought that they are prepared. But we knew about the magnitude of the tunnel industry and the weapons which are smuggled from Egypt. We know about it. We know about militias in Syria run by Iran. We know about like 50 militias only in Iraq, militias obeying Iran. And of course, the Houthis, who the Saudis failed for 8 long years to defeat, definitely a strong organization. And above everything, Iran, which is marching to nuclear weapons, to as a whole industry of missiles, which can reach London, not only Paris or Rome, even London. And we were afraid. We were, walking on shells, on eggshells all the time. We were afraid. I don't know if you remember, there were 2 tents which Hezbollah built on the border between Israel and Lebanon, and then were on Israeli soil. Although in the other side of the fence, but it was on Israeli soil. And Israel had all the reasons to kick those 2 tents in no time. Israel was afraid. In order not to ignite this octopus of militias and armies which the Iranians accumulated around us. This state was managed by fear from the Iranian octopus which they built around us. Hamas were not supposed to start a war by themselves on October 7, 2023. They were supposed to wait to the Iranian club to start all of them together. An all-out war against Israel from the south by Hamas and the Houthis, from the north by Hezbollah and the militias in Syria, from Jordan, militias from Iraq, and above everything, maybe Iran as well. If this scenario would actually be fulfilled as the Iranian planner, Suleiman, as he designed, Israel would collapse within a week. Because imagine an invasion which we had in the south, also in the north, and the Hezbollah ground forces would capture Nahariya towns like Nahariya, Shlomi, Sfat, Kiryat Shmona, Rosh Pina, and all the kibbutzim and the moshavim in between. It was like 10 times as big as what was around Gaza on October 7. This was paralyzed Israel. All the infrastructure will be destroyed in no time. Bridges, roads, runways of airports and air bases for the Israeli Air Force, power stations, water supplies of facilities, everything would be crashed by this barrage of missiles which the Iranians prepared for Israel. Hamas started a war by themselves without letting the Iranians know about this. Iranians were caught in surprise. So were Hezbollah, so were all the others.
I have a theory about why they did that, why Hamas did that. Would you like to give me your explanation?
My question was that in October 23, they heard that President Biden prepares for June 24, means like 8 months later, a signing of the Abraham Accords by Saudi Arabia and a whole list of countries after Saudi Arabia, like Indonesia, Malaysia, Pakistan, Mali, Niger, and many other more, because Saudi Arabia is a leader. This is what Biden wanted in order to come to the elections in November 24 with something way much bigger than the Abraham Accords, which were arranged by President Trump.
Right.
He wanted to show we know better. We can do much better. And Saudi Arabia was the pinnacle of the whole thing. Hamas heard about this, and for them it was the total destruction of the Palestinian cause. Because if Saudi Arabia and who knows how many more Islamic countries, in addition to Egypt and Jordan and the Emirates, if this means that most of the Islamic world will make peace with Israel, not only peace, normalization with Israel, the world will care about the Palestinian cause anymore? If there is most of the Islamic, okay, Iran will not join it, but many other countries will. So this is what pushed them to launch this attack on Israel, assuming that Israel will not do anything against them since they hold to 250 hostages. Israel will be afraid to attack Gaza, and Hamas will be able to release the 250 people in exchange to all the prisoners in Israel and who knows what else. And this was the planning of Hamas. They did not expect an all-out war which Israel will declare against Hamas. They thought that Israel will be petrified because of the hostages. Israel started the war. It took us like 3 weeks until we get our act together, because there were no plans in Israel to occupy Gaza. We made the plans very quickly, and we started the war. Where was Iran? Iran didn't know anything. The past almost 2 years, almost 700 days, which Israel is grinding Gaza, Iran did not launch even one missile because of this. The two attacks, until June 13th, the two attacks which Iran attacked us with missiles was because Israel targeted Iranian officers. Once it was in the consulate in Damascus, and once it was somebody with Nasrallah. That's all. Why? Iran told the Gazans, you started a war by yourself. Good luck. We wish you good luck. Don't ask us for any support. You actually destroyed the big plan. Why? Because the American Navy immediately sent us a carrier to the Lebanese shores. Immediately, the war was with Israel, and immediately Israel sends half of the army to the north to prevent any snatcher thing from the north. And Israel woke up to hit Hamas. Hezbollah started 1 day later with the border clashes. That's what they wanted to do. They didn't want a big war because they were waiting for the all in all war, and they did not, according to the demand of Iran. Iran did not want this war. Hezbollah also was surprised. Israel actually turned the table on their hands. An all-out war against Hamas, and later in September 2024, started with the beepers. Israel actually went all the way against Nasrallah, against Hezbollah, murdered Nasrallah, his officers, and most of the storages of the stockpile of missiles which they had. Even those who were under buildings, Israel gave them a notification, run away from the building, we are going to lock it down. And the one who did it actually was the Israeli spokesman in Arabic, Avichai Edrei, my good friend. And the joke in the Arab world was that the almighty king of the Arab world is Avichai Edrei. Because whenever he tells people go away from some place, they run away. They don't only go, they run away. They take him seriously. Okay? Of course, this was a joke because the real thing was with the Air Force. But the joke was that Avichai Edrei, since he speaks Arabic, he controls the whole Arab world. And that's what Israel did. Israel destroyed almost totally the power of Hamas. Okay, they are still holding to 20 hostages, which gives them some kind of leverage against Israel. But militarily, Hamas are being almost destroyed. Hezbollah almost destroyed. And now, these days, the Lebanese government actually demands that they dismantle their weapons. And this demand is backed by America, by Israel. Israel continues to act in Lebanon in order to convince Hezbollah to give up on the weapons. If they want to be a political party, let it be. But why should they have missiles if they have a political party? So, this one. Because of what we did to Hezbollah, Syria, which was the backbone of the Iranian octopus, actually was broken. Because Julani came out from the groves and forests of Idlib, because Hezbollah was not there to deter them, and occupied Syria within 12 days. And Iran lost Syria as the linkage between Iran and Lebanon, and Iran and the sea. And as the result, the Iraqi government also demanded all the pro-Iranian militias to dismantle their weapons, as they did. Otherwise, Israel would do it with America. The Houthis are suffering. Of course, they can launch once in a while some drone or some missile, but all in all, they are in big problems. And the strawberry on the cake is when Israel, for 12 days, from ever since June 13 until June 25, actually destroyed large parts of the Iranian air defense, which enabled Israel to attack the Iranian nuclear facilities. America did also part of this, and Fordo. Israel destroyed factories of missiles. Israel destroyed factories of missile fuel. Israel destroyed missiles and launchers. And Iran was actually exposed to whoever wanted to do anything to Iran on those days. And it remained exposed until these very days in large parts.
So what do you see?
But let me show you, Mike, that this war actually returned Israel to its power. We are not afraid anymore. Whom are we afraid of? Hamas? Of course, we have to make sure that Hamas will not return to its power. But we're not afraid of Hamas today. We are not afraid of Hezbollah. We are not afraid of Syria. We are not afraid of Iraq. Also the Houthis. There are many jokes about what happens with the Houthis. And Iran, we are not afraid of Iran as well. Israel proved that its intelligence inside Iran is way much worse from the Ayatollah point of view than what they thought. They are penetrated. How did Israel know where those 10 or 11 scientists who were anonymous, these people? Nobody knew who they are and where they live and what they do. Israel knew where they live, where they sleep, in which room, in order to insert a bomb into this into their apartment. And let alone all the, the Mossad even announced that the Mossad had a drone base in Iran. Drone base is something which minimum is like 400 meters long as the runway, and wide minimum 100 meters. Means it's a piece of land. And Israel operated such an air base of drones from Iran. From Iran. Who is that? And and the Mossad did. So what happened is, on one direction, that Israel, from a country which is shaking and shivering out of fear from the octopus which Iran built around it, actually destroyed the whole octopus. And this is the situation. It took time. It took many casualties. We sacrificed many of our dear soldiers, civilians as well. You know, the estimation before the June operation in Iran was that the number of casualties inside Israel because of the Iranian missiles will be something between 800 and 4,000 Israeli casualties, Israeli dead people in the cities and towns. You know how many? And everyone is very dear for us, around 20.
Yeah.
After the estimation was so high.
Let's talk about your things are going very well, but let's talk about two things I want to get to. One is your definition of victory in this war. When can Israel declare victory? What does that look like? So in other words, what remains to be done? And then we really want to get to your Emirates plan and the future of Gaza and the future of Palestinian-Israeli relations. I think that's that's the most important thing we have to get to today. But let's start though with in terms of the war. What do you see as remaining? What's the remaining steps that Israel needs to take?
Well, since we are one culture, means Western culture, while our neighbors are Eastern culture, Arab culture, Islamic culture, there is no way to compare the definitions of victory and defeat in the two countries. In our culture, means Western culture, if you succeed to defeat the enemy's army, to destroy its communications, to destroy its headquarters, to destroy some part of his fighting power, you defeated it, because without commandment, without communications, and a modern army cannot function. And you can force on them whatever you like. Here, when it comes to the Middle East, what Iran did is built militias, not armies. What's the difference? Militias are not bound by the international law. They can do whatever they like. They can rape, they can behead people, they can burn babies, they can do whatever they like, because the international law of war is not applied on militias. It's applied only on states like Israel. So they can continue to do to us whatever they did until today. And this is the problem. And I already, from the beginning of the war, said that if one fighter of Hezbollah, of Hamas, will remain with one leg missing, with one hand missing, and in the other hand, I has only two fingers, he will stand on a roof of a destroyed mosque. He will make V with his two last fingers, and he won. Won?
I remember you saying that now. I forgot about it. You said this right after the war began. Right.
Because this is the definition of victory. Why? Because this man, he will bring children to the world, and his children will continue his jihad, and their children will continue the jihad, and they won. Because the jihad will continue. And this is the problem between what we believe and what we act, and according to which, look, Western culture wants to make part between the fighting forces and the civilians. You're not supposed to hurt civilians who are not involved in the war, neither in your side nor in the other side. This is the rule, the basic rule, which was accepted many, many years ago in the Western world. Here in the Middle East, it's totally different. The mother of the soldier is she is supposed to suffer, just like the soldier, the grandmother, the son, the daughter, everybody, because they are the civil background of the soldier. So if you destroy them, you destroy the soldier as well, at least mentally. So this is why they don't make any difference between fighters in uniform and babies, because the babies will grow up to be fighters. And this is why their fight against us, they fight against us a war which we do not allow ourselves to do the same thing. And this is the problem. Look, I'll give you a good example. Hezbollah, when they attacked the ISIS in Syria between 2015 and 18, they put a siege on two at least villages in Syria where ISIS were hiding. Their name was Fu'a and Madaya. So what did Hezbollah do? They put a siege. They did not let them in, not food, not water, no nothing. And until the last one died of hunger. Where was the world about hunger? And this is how Hezbollah is doing it. And it's okay from their own point of view, because this is the way how to wage a war in this area by Arabs and Muslims. This is a tradition. So for them, it's okay if you put a siege. We cannot allow ourselves because we are part of the Western world. And this is why we have to feed them and to drench them and to give them electricity and oil and whatever they need, in spite of the fact that we are fighting against them. So this is the difference between cultures, and there are many more differences which make also the problem of victory and defeat very hard to define, because the definitions are totally different. Now, because Israel was forced to release Hamas fighters, Hamas killers from the Israeli from the Israeli prisons, many of them came back to their homes in Judea and Samaria. Now, there are three forces or three powers, three centers of power in Judea and Samaria. One is the PA, which represents the PLO, the modernist nationalist movement of the Palestinians. The Hamas, which represents the Islamists, which are against the nationalists, because the Hamas against the PLO. And they want to turn the Palestinian Authority to a Hamas state. And the traditional power, the clans, which those who live in the West are not aware of, because here in the Middle East, the clan system is not only alive and kicking, it is alive and killing when needed. Because this is the culture of the Middle East. The clan system still works, and it works very well in the Emirates, because these are the basis of the Emirates. You know, Dubai belongs to one clan named Al Maktoum. The Kuwait belongs to a clan named Al Sabah. And Abu Dhabi belongs to a clan named Al Nahyan, and so forth. When you establish a state on a clan, it's a good state. If you establish your state on modern ideas like nationalism, socialism, you get the atrocities like Syria, Iraq, Sudan, Libya, and all these failing states. So now, Macron, the genius, wants to establish a Palestinian state, to recognize the Palestinian state. Who is afraid? Not only Israel, the clans, because they are afraid that if there is a Palestinian state, Hamas will take it over, either by elections, as already happened in January 2006, or by coup d'etat, as Hamas did in Gaza in June 2007. Means that a Palestinian state will inevitably turn into a Hamastan, either by elections, as already happened, or by coup d'etat, as already happened. Means that they will only find themselves in a situation like Gaza, because Hamas will do what Hamas knows how to do, means to attack Israel. It will take some time until they recuperate, but they definitely will, because this is the DNA of Hamas. So the clan started to worry about being subjugated to a Palestinian state, which will turn very quickly into a Hamastan. So they took out from the closet something which I'm talking about for at least 25 years, the Palestinian Emirate solution, which means to establish an emirate in Hebron, on the basis of the clans of Hebron. Another emirate in Jericho, based on the clan which controls Jericho, which is the Arikak. Another emirate in Nablus, Shem. which will be based on the 3 clans of Nablus, Masri, Tukan, and Shaka. Another emirate in Tulkarem based on the clan of Tulkarem is the Karmis, and in Kalkilia one in Jenin, and lastly in Ramallah for the Barghoutis. And this is the only thing which works well in the Middle East. Clan-based states. They don't have to be big, but they have to be homogeneous. And this is what turned all the heterogeneous states like Lebanon, Syria, Iraq, Yemen, Sudan, Libya, to atrocities, because heterogeneous state in the Middle East becomes an atrocity. They have many.
When you say when you say heterogeneous, you're talking about many different clans or different ethnic groups, different religious groups. What do you mean?
4 axes of division: the ethnic division, Arabs, Turkmens, Kurds, Berbers in North Africa. The clans, they are sharply divided into clans. Iraq has 76 clans, the whole population. Religions. Look, in Syria there are 4 religions: Muslims, Christians, Druze, and Alawis. Okay, and they are fighting each other for generations, millennia. Okay, in Iraq we have 10 religions only in Iraq. Muslim, and I ignore the Jews who ran away from there. And Muslims, Christians, Yazidis, Sabais, Mandays, Zoroastrians, Shubaks, Qa'is, and Druze, and Alawites who ran away from Syria. Altogether, some 10 religions, only in Iraq. And who knows how many sects, because this is the subdivision of the religion. And the modern state, like Iraq, Syria, failed in its first mission to replace the traditional or the traditional loyalties to the loyalty to the state. Therefore, there was no Iraqi nation. There are Iraqi citizens, but not a nation. They are highly divided. This is why they fight each other. There is no Syrian nation. Read my doctorate about Syria. This is the biggest failure of the Assad regime, both father and son, to create an awareness of unity in Syria. And the result is what you see today. There is no nation in Yemen, no nation in Sudan, in Libya, in Algeria, all these failing states. The state failed to settle in the hearts of the people and replace the traditional loyalties to the ethnic group, to the clan, to the religion, and to the sect. And this is why the state is viewed as the enemy in these failing states. And therefore they became dictatorships everywhere in these countries. While in the Gulf, there are stable states, normal states, legitimate states, legitimate regimes. No, legitimate leaderships, because they are from us, because everyone is homogeneous unit, and it's Kuwait is like a nation state of Al-Sabah, the name of the clan which owns Kuwait. Dubai is like nation state of Al Maktoum. Okay, that's why these countries in the Gulf are legitimate, not because of the oil, because of the stability. Because Dubai, for example, has no oil at all. And Dubai is heaven on earth without oil, while Iraq, Libya are hell on earth, in spite of the hell of a lot of oil which they have, hell of a lot of oil. The oil doesn't help in this case. The stability, the homogeneity of the population. This is what brings stability and prosperity and peace. And this is why I suggested this solution. Already 25 years, The Israelis, unfortunately, did not understand it. They didn't understand the essence of this issue. And now, since it came from within Hebron, by some sheikhs who understood where they are walking to, now the Israeli government started to discuss. There is a
So just for I think most of our viewers have probably heard about this letter that the Jabari clan in Wadi al Jabari sent to near Barkat. But why don't you just tell us quickly what happened in Hebron in the last few months?
what happened is actually the whole thing was exposed to the media by an article which was published by Elliot Kaufman on the Wall Street Journal on July 6th, about a month ago. And ever since then, there was a whole upheaval in Judea and Samaria between those who support it, who are against the PA, and the PA. Now, the PA, don't forget, still has a presence on the ground.
But let's describe the letter that was sent and the idea.
They mean the states who are willing to establish an emirate wrote a letter to Nir Barkat in which they said that they are willing to establish an emirate in Hebron and to join the Abraham Accords, to have peaceful relations, normalization with Israel, and join the Abraham Accords. And they recognize Israel as a Jewish state, something which even Egypt didn't do, and let alone Jordan, and of course the Palestinians. They have no problem to recognize Israel as a Jewish state. Happens that all the Israeli right side of the map supports it. The Likud supports it. The people who live, the Jewish communities in Judea and Samaria support it. Many of the Israeli right support this idea of Emirates. We have nothing to do in Hebron itself. And of course, even the Jewish community which lives in Hebron has no problem with this claim because they are friends of these sheikhs who are very peaceful people.
So
this is why
when I read Elliot Kaufman's article, the first thing I thought about was you. Of course, you've been your idea for years. Did anyone consult you with this, or did this happen without any reference to it?
I must say, Nir Barkat is already promoting this idea for years.
Nir Barkat, minister in the government,
and the minister of Kodom.
And former mayor of Jerusalem.
Yes. He is trying to promote this idea for years already, especially to sell it to the Americans. Because Americans always look for solutions which can work. And this can work because we are actually emulating the Emirate paradigm in the Gulf rather than following the failing paradigm of Syria and Iraq with the nation state as the PLO ones. And don't forget that if we talk about whether the Palestinian state will be peaceful or not based on the PLO, look at this. This is the map which the PLO shows, and this is the map of the PLO. And this is the map of Palestine.
Yeah.
From the river to the sea. So where is Israel? According to our counterparts in the PA. And unfortunately, not only this, they also pay for slave. Means they pay big part of their budget to killers who killed Jews only because they killed Jews or their families if they are not alive. Okay? This is insane that the state of Israel still resuscitates this failing PA instead of diverting its activity to the clans and to establish the Emirates. But unfortunately, the government, since it's too preoccupied in Gaza, in Syria, with the Druze, with many, many other things, they don't have even the time to discuss this opportunity for peace, to broaden the Abraham Accords with the Palestinian Emirates, which will be in Judea and Samaria. How, according to my plan, the cities will be Emirates, while the rural areas will be all annexed to Israel, and Israel will offer Israeli citizenship to the villagers.
And what does your plan say about Gaza in particular?
Gaza could have been part of this plan until the war. Because Gaza, I don't know if you know, Gaza was divided to 5 administrative districts. Betlaya, Beit Hanun in the north, Gaza the city, Deir el-Balah, Beit Hanun, and Rafah. These were the 5 administrative divisions of Gaza. We could divide Gaza according to these lines, because these lines also took in account the clans in each and every district of Gaza. As long as the population were in Gaza living in their places, you could maybe do something like this in Gaza. However, since the war erupted, like at least half, if not more, of the population in Gaza ran away from their houses, dispersed all over the place, and now they are living and trying to survive as individuals or as nuclear families, not as clans, because the clans were shattered to pieces. So today, to talk about a clan system in Gaza, it's something which is almost totally irrelevant. It might be relevant in the parts of Gaza which are still intact, and there are many of those because of the hostages. So Gaza, I really don't know what can be the solution. In my humble view, and I published it more than a year ago, the solution to Gaza should be Qatar. All the Gazans should move to Qatar. Qatar has a lot of... I'm not making a joke.
Yeah, still find it amusing, because I think it's going to be very hard to get anyone to agree to this, but yeah.
Not at all. The Qatari Airlines has, as much as I remember, 269 airliners, means airplanes. Average capacity around 350 passengers. Easily, they can do it within a week from the Egyptian airbase or airport in El Arish, which is like 50 kilometers from Gaza. Believe me, if the Gazans know that in the end of the way they are in Qatar, they will run to El Arish if they don't find buses.
I just think the last thing that the Qataris want is 2 million Gazans in Qatar.
Qatar actually is the mother of the problem in Gaza. Qatar backed Hamas many years in politics, in media, and everything. Qatar sponsored Hamas for years with many billions, much more than what Israel allowed them to give for the above the surface. They give it from under the surface as well. Qatar actually is behind Hamas until this very day. And I think that the civilized world should have said to Qatar, either you take those Gazans and settle them in the dormitories which you built for the World Cup games which you hosted in 2022. And they can host in these dormitories either all of the Gazans or the vast majority of the Gazans. And they have hotels as well. And believe me, they can do it. And they can bring them. And they can do whatever they like. Why? Because Qatar has no restriction of money. And this is why the world should have told the Qataris, either you take those poor Gazans to your place, or we disconnect you from the SWIFT system.
Yeah. Means
You will not be able to sell gas, oil, or whatever you have. And especially cats.
So
This what convinced the Qataris The game is over all over the world.
This brings me to I think the thing that has always given me reservations about your plan, and that is the lack of international legitimacy. We're seeing today. We're taping this on August 11th. As you mentioned before, Macron is moving, and France is moving toward recognition of a Palestinian state. Today, I woke up to news that Australia is on the verge of recognizing a Palestinian state. So, as the more we see that the Oslo framework doesn't work, the more you see elements of the Western world organizing to prop it back up again. And of course, they have influence inside Israel as well. A large chunk of the Israeli establishment is still wedded in one way or another to the Oslo framework. How do you answer that criticism? That the criticism of your plan that it's just not viable given the state of opinion in the Western world?
No. Israel should go forward with the Emirate plan, regardless of what the French look. If the French want to establish a Palestinian state, let it be in Marseille. They have enough Arabs and also Palestinians in Marseille. They can have a flourishing Palestinian state on their soil. Where's the problem? Between you and me, East London is already an Arab state. Let them call it Palestine. Molenbeek in Belgium, and there are many enclaves of Islamic migration in Western Europe. After all, they gave up on their countries. So why should we pay the price of their problems? And I want you to know, but this idea to recognize a Palestinian state by Macron was actually initiated by the domestic security organization in France, which came out with a report about the danger of the Muslim Brotherhood in France like 3 months ago. And they ended this report by claiming, or by saying, the authors of this report, that we, French, must appease those Islamists. And one of the ways how to appease them is to recognize a Palestinian state.
Okay.
And it is stated, this is what they write.
Right.
It means Israel has to pay the price of the fact that France failed to keep its own culture.
We've only got a few minutes left. Let me take you, because you are an expert on Arab culture and politics writ large. One of the things that I think I have noticed in the last few months especially is a kind of hardening of the Saudi position against recognition of Israel. And the Saudis are aligned with Macron, probably backing him in a number of ways, even some we probably don't know about. And they are insisting that there has to be an irreversible pathway to a two-state solution before we can have normalization with Israel. It looks to me like there's a kind of great irony here in that Israel severely diminished the Saudis' biggest enemy, Iran. And as a result of diminishing the threat to Saudi Arabia from Iran, the Saudis feel less of a compulsion or less of a necessity of making better relations with Israel, which they needed against Iran. Is that your reading, or do you see it differently?
Look, the Saudis, don't forget, as much as they should be praised as the leader of the Islamic world, holding the two holy places, Mecca and Medina, and so forth. From the military point of view, Saudi Arabia is a weak country, very weak country. Just remember what happened to Saudi Arabia at 4 o'clock in the morning of September 14, 2019, when the Iranians attacked two major facilities of oil export in Saudi Arabia with drones, with missiles, one in a place named Abqeq and the other one in a place named Khorais, and actually paralyzed some 50% of the Saudi ability to export oil for months. Big damage. And the Iranian and the Saudis did nothing. In January 2020, the United States under Trump got rid of Soleimani, who engineered this attack. But Saudi Arabia as a state did not retaliate. Why? Because Saudi Arabia is weak. They are afraid of the Iranians, they are afraid of the Houthis, they are afraid of the militias which once were in Iran. In my humble view, today what pushes the Saudis to question Israel about the Palestinian state is exactly this, the Iranians. Although the Iranians were hit by Israel, although the Iranians are exposed from the air point of view, they can launch a lot of missiles, short-range missiles, in order to destroy the Saudi oil production facilities, which are all exposed on the ground, waiting, from the Iranian point of view, waiting to the Iranian missiles to attack them. And in my humble view, this is what the Iranians said. Now, since the Iranians want to take revenge from Israel, they want a Palestinian state which will turn into a Hamas state, which will be in good relations with Iran, if not also a mutual defense treaty between the Palestinian state and Iran, under Hamas, of course. And in that case, Saudi Arabia now is serving the Iranians by demanding a Palestinian state, which will inevitably turn into a Hamas state under the hegemony of Iran.
We have about 2 minutes left, and then I'm going to have to go. Why don't you just give us your understanding of the relations among Iran, Saudi Arabia, and Turkey with respect to this question? It seems like they're all kind of in competition now with each other over the two-state solution question.
It's not only a competition; it's a matter of hatred. There is a big hatred between Saudi Arabia and Turkey. The reason is the way both sides interpret Islam. In Saudi Arabia, Islam is part of the state. Islam and state are intertwined. The families of the scholars are supporting the state, and the state actually, and the scholars, Al-Athimin, Al-Sheikh, and Ibn Baz, all these three families of scholars, their mission is to support the regime. And this is the Saudi way how Islam should be. In Turkey, which is the Muslim Brotherhood version of Islam, Islam is actually a rebellious element against the government. It is like this in Egypt, it is in Jordan, in Syria as it was. And all the derivatives of the Muslim Brotherhood, Al-Qaeda, ISIS, HTS, all these organizations are designed to undermine the regime. Look what they did to Assad, look what they did in Lebanon, what they did, of course, Lebanon is the Shia side, what they did in Turkey, they kick out the former regime of the secular sect of, or secular parties of Turkey, how they behave in Tunisia, the Nada, and in Israel as well, we have Hamas and we have the Muslim Brotherhood here in Israel, who are all against the system. And this is the Muslim Brotherhood kind of thinking. By the way, they're against the system in the United States as well. They're against the system in Europe. And wherever they go, the Muslim Brotherhood are against the system by definition. This is the genes. And this is why you cannot make any bridge between Islam, which serves the system, as it is in Saudi Arabia, and Islam, which is against the system, as it is in Turkey, the implementation of this Islam. And this is why these differences between Muslim Brotherhood and Saudi Arabia, to a degree, that Saudi Arabia supported Sisi in Egypt in 2013 when he kicked out Morsi, the Muslim Brotherhood president of Egypt, who was in office for 1 year. Okay? The Saudis the Saudis supported Sisi, the secular, to be a threat of the Muslim Brotherhood President Morsi in 2013. To that degree, the hatred between the Saudis and the Muslim Brotherhood. And that's why Saudi Arabia never supported Hamas. Never supported Hamas in the war against us.
I'm gonna have to cut us off here because I have a hard stop. But let's just get your quick 1 or 2 sentence response to this. Despite this enmity or competition, however you want to describe it, between Riyadh and Ankara, that doesn't translate into any kind of alignment among the Saudis and the Israelis to balance the Turks, or among the Turks and the Israelis to balance the Saudis. The Israelis remain outside of the system. Is that correct?
We try not to get between Saudi Arabia and Turkey. Yet, don't forget, the Saudis, means the Saudi family, occupied Mecca and Medina from the Sharif Hussein 100 years ago, who was the master or the custodian of Mecca and Medina under the Ottoman Empire. Means that the Saudi family, which is not from the Hijaz, they are not from Mecca and Medina, they are from Riyadh, from the Najd Heights. They occupied Mecca and Medina, and the king has an epithet, the custodian of the 2 holy places. And this actually aggravates the Turks until this very day, because the Turks were in Mecca and Medina before him. And they kicked out the Sharif Hussein, which the Turks nominated. So memories, history, religion play very important game here in the Middle East. Unfortunately, Westerners are not aware of the magnitude of these elements in Middle Eastern today's policies. But I always hope that people in America, in Europe, will study Arabic and will start to read the Islamic sources and the Arab sources by themselves without translation. I have this hope. I'm still naive because, unfortunately,
I love my people, but deep scholarship on the Middle East is not one of their defining characteristics. I'm afraid I have to cut you off. I could keep going on this with you for hours on this. With your permission, we'll have you back, and we thank you tremendously for filling in for Gadi Town.
Thank you so much. But remember one thing. In the Middle East, peace is given to the invincible only.
Okay, that's a good way to end. So I wish you a lot of invincibility, and we'll talk to you again soon.
See you.
Bye-bye. Thank you.